Do not let yourself become isolated. Reach out, collaborate with people you wouldn't expect would be helpful, people outside of your field.
Welcome, Julia, to the podcast. For one, I can't believe you have not been on yet, but now that you're here, I would love for our audience to get to know you a little bit more. Would you like to share a little bit about who you are and also what got you interested in our field?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, thanks for having me. This is exciting. I've never participated in a podcast before, so first time for me. But yeah, so I'm Julia Hutchinson, Clarity Coordinator. I'm sure you guys have seen, some of you have seen me in my newsletters. But yeah, so I became interested in working with the visually impaired actually way back when I was actually in 4-H. So I grew up in 4-H clubs, and my club's philanthropy was working with individuals with disabilities through hippotherapy. So getting them on horses, getting them interested in riding, helping them, accommodating them based on their needs. And one of the individuals that I was assigned to work with my horse was actually completely blind, and he also had an orthopedic impairment. And just thinking, even at the young age of like 8 or 9, like, how can I make this more accessible and more fun for this gentleman so that he's really getting something out of it? That kind of sparked my interest in working with individuals who are blind and working with individuals with disabilities. And I kind of just let it taper off through high school, didn't really think about it. And then I was floating through college my freshman year at Florida State University. Go Noles, had to do the shout out. And this gentleman, Mickey D'Amelio, he's an O&M in our field. He had approached my friend's nursing program and was like, hey, if you guys aren't interested in becoming nurses, but you still want to work one-on-one with individuals, help them succeed, we have this awesome visual disabilities program, come check it out. Well, I heard that through my friend, and it was just like an instant feeling. It was like a gut reaction that I knew this was like my calling. I don't know if that sounds corny or not, but it's the truth. And so I went and I met with the advisor of the program, and within 5 minutes, I just knew to my core, this is what I was meant to do. So graduated with my master's, O&M and TBI, and I've been working ever since. So I've been practicing in the field professionally since 2015.
That's so exciting. So can you think about how many things had to fall into place throughout your whole life to get to that moment?
Right. And I never saw it coming. I never saw it coming. I thought I was going to be like an event planner or something in business, and nothing was really feeling right. And that once I heard about that program, it felt so right. Like I knew immediately that that's what I was meant to do. And I'm just so grateful that all of those things fell into place to lead me here.
Yeah. Isn't it? I think life in general is like that. I mean, I have goosebumps. You have not ever talked about this before. We did know that we went to the same school, which we're
right.
very proud Knowles. And to think how few universities have that full university TVI experience. It's not like going to school for business or going to school for event planning or going to school for nutrition. There are only a certain number of schools that have programs that will take you from undergrad all the way through your master's and actually out into the world without you already having to have a certificate or be teaching and all that jazz. So the fact that it may not have worked for your friends, but it worked for you and it got the word out. How cool is that?
So cool. It's so cool what, just like the oddest ways of recruitment can work. I'm kind of a poster child for that. I would have never heard of the program had it, because it's so small, had it not been for my friend just thinking this guy was like trying to take her away, steal her from her program, which is just so funny. That's very Mickey, and he would own it, so I can say it. But yeah, it's pretty cool. It's been an awesome experience.
Yeah. Okay. So you graduated in 2015, and You graduated as a TVI and O&M combined.
Yep. Yep.
Here's where
and I apologize. I actually graduated in 2014. I started working in January 2015.
Oh, okay. So here's where like our paths, we went to the same school, but we chose different paths throughout this, throughout our career, where I ended up moving and only doing O&M, and my TVI degree, it just kind of sits there, and I like go poke at my emergency certificate every time that I want it. And I don't know if it's even possible now, but I would definitely need a lot more professional development to keep teaching, though it's changed so much. Where did you end up teaching your first year?
Yep. So again, all the stars align, right? So my internship for my TVI, my bachelor's internship, I completed that in Colorado because another FSU alum had heard that this undergrad was out looking to be placed somewhere with mountains. That's all I wanted. I just wanted to be out in the mountains. And her story was kind of similar to mine. And so when my advisor did like the all call, is there anybody who would be willing to supervise this student? She answered the call. And so I did my internship in Colorado, immediately fell in love with the place, fell in love with my department, fell in love with my administrators, my students, everything. So I go back, I'm getting my master's degree. My supervisor, who's now one of my very best friends, calls me up and she's like, hey, I have a family emergency. I need to move back to Michigan for a couple of years. Would you like your caseload back? Would you like to be hired on full time in our district once you graduate? So literally she had to leave, and then I got hired on, and I got all of my same students that I had on my internship. I got them all back for my first year of teaching. That's what really gives me chills, is the fact that that happened. Like, I have known those students for so long now. And I'm still, even though I live in Oregon now, I'm still connected with them and their families. And so I started teaching in Colorado, and I taught there for about 6 years. And now I'm in Oregon, and I've been teaching here for 2 years, 2+ years.
Oh my gosh, how cool is
I know.
It's like
I know.
all the stars have aligned in the most beautiful ways.
Right. I'm so lucky. And I feel it every day. Like, I'm so lucky to have had that experience.
How you get so creative, because that's one of the things that I love about you. Can you bring me back to that first year? And I want to ask you about the challenges that you faced. Although you walked into a caseload that you knew, and admins that loved you, and you already had friends, and you were already used to all of their systems, which a lot of first year teachers have to overcome all of those issues. I'm sure you still had challenges. Can you tell me about at least one of those challenges that you had?
Absolutely. So I would say, thinking back all those years ago, I was not prepared for the diversity of, one, the age range and grade levels of my students, but also their goals. So I walked into IEPs that had been pre-written by a phenomenal TBI, somebody who took the time to truly investigate every single area of the expanded core curriculum. She was not just a compensatory skills gal. She looked at every aspect of student need, and she wrote goals to them. Beautiful. Love it. Now that I'm in like an aged TBI, if you will, I do that too. But walking into it as like a first year, having to think about how I'm going to address this goal and keep it interesting for an entire IEP year, while also building on skills for something, as independent living skills, assistive technology, all of these things that each one of my students had. Students with multiple impairments had career development goals. Students who were in kindergarten had independent living skills goals. And they're all these different age ranges, and they're all these different abilities. And I'm attacking every single area of the expanded core curriculum. It was just so diverse and dynamic that taking the time to investigate my students, build that rapport, and then work on those skills inside and outside of a school setting was incredibly challenging to start. Of course, now I love it, but oh my gosh, back then it was just like, as a first year or second or third year, honestly, if we're keeping it real, those first 3 years when you're just looking over reports and you're looking over IEPs, the wheels start turning, but sometimes it's like like you don't really know where to start. And so that was definitely one of my greatest challenges as a first year TBI.
How did you grow? Okay, let me bring this back. I'm going to ask you how you grew, and share a little story that shows a little bit of relatability, because while you were a TBI and you were itinerant, I was an O&M at a residential school. So I had so much support, but I remember feeling the exact same way that you just described. And as you were talking, I had this memory of this seasoned teacher coming up to me, and she was like, why does this student have this much IEP time, or this little IEP time? Typically this level of student with this visual impairment gets X amount of time. And I was like, deer in headlights, like, right. I don't know, they came in with it, like, I'm not the expert. Right. And then we would have to change everybody's goals because they weren't written for a residential setting, they were written for a school. And I did not know the difference because I never taught in a school setting. So I felt the exact same way, just this overwhelm of, how am I going to do this? What is this going to look like? How am I supposed to tackle all of this? And where do we even go next? Okay, so how did you overcome that?
So my philosophy on teaching, I developed it in my master's program, has always been for my students, high yet reasonable expectations yield high results. And so I flipped the script and I put that onus on me, that I have to have reasonable expectations for myself when looking at these goals, but they still yet have to be high in that I know I can do this. I'm one of those people that it's like, if, the teacher before me can do this and she wrote these goals, I can figure out a way to do this too. So I'm big into research. I'm big into really, and I say research both textbook wise and also researching my students. Like, I didn't care if my admin was mad that for the first week that I saw my kids, all we were doing was building rapport. All I was doing was getting to know them, getting to know their interests, getting to know what they like, what they don't like, what their day looks like, what their week looks like inside and outside of school. After I did all of that research on their end, while also researching how to better blend various areas of the expanded core curriculum, I used what I knew about the student to develop lessons that hit on at least 3 to 4 like goal areas. So, and I would bring it back to them, like, okay, if I have a student who's like obsessed with Minecraft, how can I integrate his assistive tech goal, his career development goal, and his independent living skills goal? Well, I'm going to start by bringing Minecraft to the table, integrating all of my lessons with that so that I have student buy-in, 1, and so that 2, I know that if I can just fixate my brain on like one interest of his, everything else for me just kind of falls into place with strategies and instruction and everything, practice, all of that, so that I can make sure that I'm hitting the goals, but I'm also developing that rapport with my student. I don't know if that if that does a good job of answering your question, but just researching the kids and researching the domain areas and then blending them all together.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. Okay, we are going to wrap up, but first, I'm going to ask you a question, a step forward, right? The whole point is you don't have to be perfect. So if you could give one piece of advice to our community to help them take a step forward in becoming a better TVI or O&M or dual or AT or whatever, however they're in this field, what would you say?
Do not let yourself become isolated. Reach out, collaborate with people you wouldn't expect would be helpful, people outside of your field. Talk with everybody in the school. Everybody can help you to be a better teacher, and everybody can help you to support your students. Do not let yourself stay siloed. There's a world of community out there at your fingertips that you might not even know exists, but they're there. They're ready to learn from you. They're ready to support you. They're ready to teach you, whether they know it or not. You have a team around you constantly. Utilize those individuals, utilize those professionals, bounce ideas off of them, see what they're thinking is cool, see what they don't know about our field, fill them in, and vice versa. We're not PE teachers, but boy, do we need the help from PE teachers. Don't let yourself just be the TBI who goes to that school once or twice a week and then leaves. Develop a community, reach out, develop teams. It's going to help you so much in the long run, not only to be better for your students, but just to be a better professional. I highly recommend that you make it known who you are and make it known that you welcome opportunities for help and collaboration. So that would be my pointer.
Oh, that is beautiful. Thank you so much. And thank you for coming on the podcast and sharing your creative ways. I thoroughly enjoy learning from you. And I'm just so glad that I personally get to work with you and get to know you as a person, because I value you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. That means the world to me. It's been so fun. It's been so fun working with you and working for Clarity. And I'm just constantly thinking of new ideas and how I can help to push us all forward, take steps forward. So I really appreciate you working with me too. It's been a lot of fun. And thanks for having me on. It's my first podcast, first time.